Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's head-to-head comparison, let's take a look at the 2025 Toyota Tacoma TRD Pro and my personal Toyota Tacoma TRD Offroad. Now what I want to talk about in today's video is the TRD Pro a truck worth the price? Because you have a lot of different options for the 4th gen Tacoma, which I will cover here slightly, starting from around $31,000 for an SR model, all the way up to close to $64,000 for this TRD Pro. You have a lot of trim levels in between both of those with a lot of options, a lot of pricing to go over. And can you make your truck turn into a TRD Pro? That is basically why I decided to buy the off-road model and slowly start to turn it into a Pro. So let's take a look at the exterior styling before we get into the pricing and all of that information. As you can tell with the TRD Pro, it has a lot of distinctive designs for the exterior that definitely separate it from the rest of the trim accents or trim levels. So you'll notice the Toyota badge, the LED light bar, and this is fully loaded. So it gets the 360 camera system, fog lights are down below, there's even TRD stamped skid plates along with red tow hooks. And then I did install new skid plates for my truck because they just had the hard composite along with the tow hooks that were in the bumper there. And it also comes with the high clearance design for the front bumper. Now, if you are looking to buy the TRD Pro, maybe you're just not wanting to mod a truck because there's really not much else you can do to this. You could probably slap on some 35s though, because you have this cutout. It's going to provide you with a little bit more clearance than on the rest of the trucks. As you can tell, the lower section of the bumper is much different. So there's some more cutting that you would have to do to stuff 35s like I have. For the rest of the front, you have the dark housing for the LEDs and then the iconic hood scoop with the TRD Pro badge on the side. Now, as you take a look at my TRD Offroad, this is more of a basic grille. There's also a little bit different of a design for the SR models and some of the lower trim levels, but everything is fairly similar except for that bumper shape. I even installed a new hybrid bumper to mimic more of the Trail Hunter, especially with the color that I went with, but it gives it a cool look. You could, of course, do that to the Pro if you wanted to. Both of these trucks have the distance pacing, so they have that sensor right there. And then as you can tell, no hood scoop, but some really nice lines that come down the hood. And then the iForce Max badge is on the side. Now, interestingly enough, this is just adhesive on. So I could choose to take that off, maybe do a custom badge, probably not the TRD Pro, but I could maybe do something else in its place. Now, as we work our way to the side for the TRD Pro, it comes with a wider set of fender flares. This also has a set of 33-inch tires, an 18-inch wheel, which is interesting for the size that it's not a 17, but still a nice wheel design. And then there's the TRD tuned suspension as well. So it gives it a slight lift and a little bit wider of a look. So as you can tell, I do not have the factory black plastic fender flares for my truck anymore. These stick out about another inch compared to the factory ones. So very similar to the Pro. I could make them gloss black. That was an option. So you can have almost a matching set there. Now for the TRD Pro, you also get the gloss black mirrors, and this even has the gloss black roof. Now for the Pro as well, for 2025, there's 3 different colors that you can get. You have white, black, and then Terra was actually a color in 2024. I think you can still get that for 2025, but that's another reason why I went with Terra. So off topic there. I wanted to get a Pro color, so I had to wait for 2025 in order to get a Pro color for my truck. That way I can slowly start to make it even more like a Pro. Now, this also comes with rock sliders down below. My truck did not come with them, so I added them. I get a step as well. So these are just up underneath the frame. There's no step. So they're functional for off-roading, but not to enter and exit. The Pros also get the gloss black door handles. Now this is something that I would like to try to do because I just have the plastic. I believe the Limited comes with body colored or gloss black door handles, but most of them come with just that plastic trim. So I would like to change that up just to make it look a little nicer than the plastic, as you can see. Now in back, TRD Pro is very large. This is not new for the TRD Pro, but where its location is because it was on the bedside at one point. Now it's across the entire rear tailgate. Now this also has an ARB steel bumper, a little bit of a high clearance design. It's not much different than the factory bumper, and this has the dual exhaust tucked up nicely. Now we've been able to take both of these trucks off the pavement, and with this location, it actually doesn't scrape. So it has a really good location for it. There's also tow hooks in the back too. And then with the Pro, you get all of the goodies like the power tailgate. So you have several ways that you can open this up, and this even gets a spray and bed liner. I didn't see that as an option at all for any of the other trucks. I could not get that for mine. So not sure why Toyota does that, and they just reserve it for the Pro. It would be nice to get that. There's also Tacoma at that back section there, and then everything else is going to be the same. Sliding rear glass, camera system up there with the cargo light. And as you can tell in back, this just has Tacoma stamped in the tailgate. And like I said with the bumper, it's a little bit different, but probably about the same, to be honest. Just the shape kind of throws it off, since these are roughly about the same. And then the factory exhaust sticks out somewhere over here. So I tried to mimic the Trail Hunter. I have the axle dump just in front of the axle, of course. So you can take a look at the Tacoma playlist to view all of the modification videos that I have already made with this truck. Now let's work our way to the interior, because the Pro gets something that no other truck has. This is the isodynamic seats. Now red is an option. You can go with black if you would like. And these are automatic to move forwards and backwards, and then manual for the recline. Now, when we first saw these seats, we thought they were a joke and a gimmick, because in the back section here, you actually have some shocks here that you can adjust. You have the PSI there that you can monitor, and a few different settings that you can click here depending on the driving that you are doing. After taking this off-road, these seats are no joke. They are super comfortable, they hold you well, and they move because they have that inner shock. So you basically have the suspension of the truck and the suspension of this seat to make you nice and comfortable. Now, one downside with these seats is that you do lose a little bit of legroom. So I opted to not go with the Pro just for better backseat room, but you have some cutouts here. If you had some people in the back, you could make it work, but it is going to be a little bit tighter. Now, for the rest of the Pro, for 2025, they added a 4th auxiliary switch. So you have all those, you have the light bar down below, being able to pitch the headlights. You get carbon fiber trim accents too, and lots of tech. There's even the TRD steering wheel there with the stripe up top. You get the TRD shift knob too. And then everything else is going to be pretty much like a normal truck, depending on the options that you go with. So technically, like my truck, I went with the TRD Offroad Premium package. So that makes it pretty much the same as this. I also opted for the sway bar disconnect. So that's an option on my truck, standard on this truck, of course. You have the locking rear diff, some trailering assistances, and then all of this tech here. Now, I've already made a full review on this truck, so if you would like to see that in greater details and going through the rest of the specs, take a look at that separate full review. Now, as we work our way to my truck now, you'll notice there's no carbon fiber accents. It's all this like gray trim. There's just TRD there. And then I don't have the TRD steering wheel, of course, which would be nice to upgrade at some point. I only have 3 auxiliary switches, so there is a blank there, but everything else, minus the seats, is going to be the same. So I basically spec'd a fully loaded TRD Offroad to better compete with the TRD Pro. So let's jump into pricing now. Like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, you can go with an SR, which starts just over $31,000. Very interesting to see for the 4th gen, because my 2017 TRD Offroad costs about $34,000. So for the 4th gen, we have an SR that costs nearly just the same. So for the TRD Offroad in general, they start around $42,000 if you go with the base engine. Standard on the TRD Pro is the iForce Max. So that's a 2.4 liter 4-cylinder turbo with the hybrid, 326 horsepower, 465 pound-feet of torque. This is a very powerful turbo engine. If you go with the base, obviously you don't get the hybrid system, so you have a lot less power. Now, with the TRD Offroad with the iForce Max, they start around $48,000. And with that premium package, like I mentioned, I went with closer to $57,000. And then real quick, just to touch base on different trim levels, because I did seriously consider going with a TRD Sport, because with the Sport, you get body colored fender flares, you also get the hood scoop as well. So that would better make this truck look more like a TRD Pro. Now, the reason I didn't go with the Sport is because there were some off-roading features that you can't get that are similar to the Pro. You can't get a locking rear diff, you can't get crawl control, so it's basically just a basic 4-wheel drive system. perfectly fine truck if that fits your needs, but I wanted some more of the tech, the locking diff, sway bar disconnect. I won't be taking this off-road as much as I used to, but for a little bit more money, I couldn't pass up going with those extra tech features. And then there's other trim levels, of course, that you can go with, just depending again on your budget, what you're looking to get with your truck. You could probably go with a base SR and mod it to look like a Pro. You're just not going to get some of those tech features. You're not going to get a lot of the interior tech as well. So just depends on what you were looking to go with. The larger screen is definitely very beneficial, and I like all of the tech that this truck has. So again, just depending on the route that you want to go, I think this was the best truck to go with, one step below the Pro, and you still have some wiggle room to put on the mods. So for that gap between 57 grand and $64,000, was it worth it for me to buy this and not just go with the Pro? If you add all of the modifications that I've already done to this truck, we have the same exact price. So you can buy a stock Pro, and when I say stock, you get all of those goodies and features, or do you buy the truck, do the mods, and now you have pretty much a TRD Pro, minus a few of the goodies like the seats, bumper, things like that. So I still have some more modifications to do to this truck, but comment down below and let me know your thoughts. Would you rather go the route that I did, or are you looking just to buy your truck and drive it as is? For me and my needs, I love modding trucks. I love doing all these parts and showing you all how to do all of these right here in the driveway and the garage. So I've done quite a lot to this truck already, and I would say some of these are even more functional than the TRD Pro. So I have 35s, which you could probably stuff on this. You could do a lift up front to get a little bit more clearance. So you could ride around with this on 35s all day long. But the suspension is going to vary depending on your budget and the brand you're looking for. They can ride fairly similar. Both of these are going to ride just like a factory truck. Obviously, this is a factory suspension, but if you lift it or do anything, you can make that ride just as nice. And again, take a look at the separate detailed reviews where I have more driving impressions, but overall for both of these trucks, they're super fun. The TRD Pro is expensive, but when you compare it to some of the other competitors, I made a video comparing this to the Ranger Raptor, which is closer on par with the TRD Offroad, but take a look at that video so you can see the differences between that. There's the Canyon AT4X, which is in the mid $60,000 range, a little bit more expensive than the TRD Pro. So for the mid-sized truck world, it is crazy to see the pricing for these. I remember when the Ford Raptor came out, I think it was $58,000, $59,000. So we have mid-sized trucks now that are close to that price. Those full-size trucks, though, are almost double in price. So everything is getting expensive. So for today's market, what would you buy? Would you go with a Toyota? Would you go with one of the competitors? Would you go with a lower trim level and try to mod it to make it like the top trim level here? So comment your thoughts down below. Obviously, you know the route I'm going, so stay tuned for the rest of the build process for this. Check out the rest of our videos with the Toyota Tacomas in general, taking them off the pavement. We have a lot of miles behind the 4th gen. Great truck, absolutely love it. It is a fun truck to work on and mod, and I'm excited for the rest of this build and what's to come. If you all enjoyed today's video, give it a huge thumbs up and consider smashing that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with our daily uploads. I'll see you all in the next video.